Morning, if you are here already. We're not going to start ahead of time, but get to share the music together if you are ready. With this confusion, where the police they inside the well, I mean they inside the well. Who go come solve this confusion? Lying be said when we say confusion, we say pafuta. We did confusion, it break it, confusion, it break it, confusion break money, yeah, pa. Confusion break money, yeah, pa. Na double wahala for everybody, and you now everybody double wahala for everybody. Everybody, oh, double wahala for everybody, and you now everybody double wahala for everybody. Everybody, oh, double wahala for everybody, and you now everybody double wahala for everybody. Everybody, oh, double wahala for everybody, and you now double wahala. Since I'm playing DJ this morning, right? Let me introduce you. I just die you see one Fela classic. Probably one of the best drum sets you don't ever hear on the Fela track. You'll hear it please, so go ahead. Right. About the time yourself, by the way. Long after this age is gone, when we all become as dust, Fela's music will still be here. Not necessarily because of the drums. Others will beat the drum. Maybe A1 will do much better. But A1 will probably do much better eventually. But the truth he told, damn, Fela is a study in civic education all by himself. If you wouldn't even read books, go get Fela's collection and listen. Just listen. I didn't say, listen to him, hear him. I swear to God, you probably learn more from him than some universities would ever be able to teach you about life or Nigeria. They are the early birds. So we get to freelance together. There's something that's been on my mind. I posted it earlier in the week when I spoke to why Moses had to be raised in Pharaoh's palace. I'm going to do this because it's pretty easy for those who would not be watching live or who will be watching live and not hear early. They can always come back to the video because it's been on my mind for like the last couple of days. I think the memory must have popped up about 2-3 days ago, and I shared it again, and I noticed that just like always, every time I've had occasion to share that word, there's been a whole lot of different reactions and interpretation of what I might have meant when I say that there was a reason why Moses had to be raised in Pharaoh's palace. A lot of you came close. I might have even found one or two persons who, a couple of persons were almost like, you know how it is when the same idea would occur to you or the same thought would occur to you and others would have different strands of the same wisdom or rema or knowledge or truth. There can be strands to the same truth, so one does not contradict the other, and sometimes one explains the other. But for me, my understanding of the need for Moses to have been raised in Pharaoh's palace has more to do with him needing to learn the governance systems and all of that. Yes, all those were very important, but that wasn't the real reason. The real reason, in my own opinion, is the need for him not to ever have any taste of slavery, because slavery, it mimics where we are in our country right now, but it is not even close. Slavery begins in the mind. It was critical that Moses must not be raised as a slave. It was necessary that his mind was never shackled. It was necessary that he was raised as one of those who saw themselves as gods, because that is actually the actual and true interpretation and mind of man. And all these will become important by the time we go into the specificities of today's discussion, or shall I say, I enjoy the sound of my own voice, so we'll call it a talk or a lecture, whatever, but because it's not interactive, you just have to endure me calling it a lecture. So now I have the beard, I'm getting the gray hair, so I might finally qualify as a mad professor, so we'll call this talks. So essentially, it was always about Moses' mind. His mind couldn't possibly have been accepting of slavery and be capable of the task of leading the liberation of his people. And by the time you go into the biblical account of the wilderness experience, you would see multiple places where the children of Israel demanded to be taken back to what they knew, which was slavery. So the mind is always going back to what it knows. And the only thing Moses knew, by reason of his birth and upbringing, was that of the Egyptian prince, who essentially saw himself as the equal to any god. So I'll let theologians explain the rest of that. That is not my topic for today, and I'm not a Bible scholar or a theologian, but it's always struck me that that was the essential difference between, that was the critical difference between him and the remaining Israelites. And it's easy to draw those conclusions today when I look at contemporary Nigeria, where the perversion of having ruiners in place of rulers have come to be accepted by the people who actually do not believe that they have a duty or even the right to hold these ruiners accountable. So the concept of the rulers being seen almost as gods by those who should be citizens but have become as serfs and slaves resonates with me when I see the frustrations that the conscious mind living in Nigeria and not accepting of slavery goes through when we behold the victims who should be foot soldiers in the revolution to, or in any war of liberation to free them, constantly being the ones recruited into the armies of the oppressors, mouthing platitudes and explaining evil. You see them, it's easy to brand them but idiots and Buhari dignitaries and what have you, but those are our brothers. And the reality of the matter is that until their own minds are free, we ourselves cannot be truly free. So when I see these anomalies, I struggle to understand why those who should rightly be referred to as the Moses generation, the ones who saw this country before it became, I'm not even talking about that wasteful, lost generation. Our fathers, when I say our fathers, if you're a 60s child, or if you were born in the early 70s, your fathers, my father, they're all failures collectively. Horrible lot, wasteful, most wasteful generation, and they're still hanging around, wasting everything, killing every evil. And then you're my generation and you've seen this country pretend to have a glorious past. That was your childhood. How can you be helping them to explain and normalize the evil that is being built in front of you? That is the Moses generation, and that Moses generation is most unthinking. Our fathers were wasteful, but my generation is not set on that. Drawing closer to the opening of service, Kolanat, be careful to share share the link for tithe and offering so that we too can take tithe and offering. Right, that's just, I don't know, okay. The second issue I should seg into before I start my, should I? Yeah, I should actually, because I've noticed that it's part of my attempted explanations of the basis for my decision to be having these talks at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning. A lot of people, particularly the church goers, have continued to demand to know why I would have this at this time. So let me tell you, multiple reasons. If I want to be nasty, I'll say it's because I think I won't use that word. I think it's actually because I'm no longer really doing this for your convenience. It's about my convenience. I've written books, told you to download it for free. You lot won't read. And I realized that perhaps it might be a little easier if we just talk to ourselves. And the most convenient time for me to do this is Sunday morning. You understand? And you can always go online to watch it. So aside from the fact that whatever else I may or may not think of the Nigerian church, and I'm not condemning all, I know there are quite a few good men and women of God out there. I do not have the level of conceit required to begin to believe like, oh, this is the only person. I'm not the only person. There are multiple persons across the world within Nigeria who are still speaking the truth of God, and they will speak from the pulpit in church on Sunday morning. But for me, the vacuousness of our religiosity has made it difficult for me really to believe that, look, Sunday morning is convenient for me. If it's not convenient for you, go to church. When you come back, enjoy watching the broadcast at your own convenience. But yeah, it's about my convenience. Let's just keep it at that. Now, oh yeah, one last one, because we still have a few more minutes. So I think it was early last week, I saw the letter from the National Broadcasting Commission flying around on the internet. And I was wondering exactly what that was all about, because my words might be unpleasant to those who hate the truth, but I am always careful to ensure that I am bridled by the truth. So even though you may not like the way I would say it, and sometimes I do that intentionally, I want to provoke you. When I say you, I want to provoke the Nigerian into normalizing demanding better of those who ruin the country whilst pretending to rule it. So I am deliberately provocative in my choice of words when I am answering some questions. But even in being deliberately provocative, I am rarely ever irresponsible with my words. Irresponsible would be to leave room for a system that is intent on killing the truth to have an opening by which to hold me. I'm not that stupid. I do not speak from my own intelligence. I speak strictly the truth that is placed in my mouth. So I was a little outraged and amused. I said that they should fish out the video for me, and I listened to my words again. And I realized that I wasn't saying anything close to what the National Broadcasting Commission presumed to put out as my words. And of course, because like I have said repeatedly in the past, Oromodie Kumaawodi, Ìyá ẹ̀ ló mà ṣá. The chick does not know the hawk. He has never met the hawk, know nothing of it. But his mother recognizes the raptors in the sky. I've been around for a while. I know when a country is descending into fascist dictatorship. And that is exactly what Nigeria has evolved into becoming. It is clear to me that with the coming into power of the president-elect of INEC, an attempt would of course have to be made to silence every dissenting voice. I welcome their attempts. It's a waste of time with me. As long as we have to pretend that we're in a democracy, I will not be silenced except by the truth. The truth will bridle my tongue and nothing more. You do what you think you need to do. I will do what I believe I need to do. So I have the loyal right to the NBC, and my position is very clear. I will not be silent, and I will test the laws if the NBC should fail to retract the nonsense that it placed in the public space, presuming to label a dog a bad name so that it might hang it. Because that would be the only reason why a government institution would allow itself to be so subverted and pressed into the services of men who will pass away as highway. And then they undermine the integrity of states and presume to curtail the right of its citizens. Yes, I know we are not citizens or treated as one, but as long as we have to pretend that we're a constitutional democracy, let me be clear, I will not be silenced. Just so that I complete that thought, those of you who are familiar with the machinations of the Baptists in Lagos State, you will recall that over 2 years ago, I did make a report to both the police and to the DSS about direct planning by named persons, and the DSS and the police, as at that time, did nothing. I do not expect any better from them this time around, but let nobody be in any doubt. If anything unto us should happen to me, you know who to look to. I am not going to be silenced. Let's just be clear on that. So that brings that to a close. It's 10 o'clock now, and yes, we're going to be talking this morning about Nigeria, Nigerians, and religiosity. The Nigerian requires no definition, and Nigeria itself is already painfully clear to you as well. So we will not waste time on that. But what is religiosity? I think the easiest way to understand religiosity would be to go to the root. Religion. What is religion? In understanding words, I have a peculiar experience with the English language. I became an avid player of Scrabble at a very early age. So that forced on me this habit of longing around the World Book Dictionary. And if you've ever come across those volumes, there are two of them, A to L, M to Z. What it does is that it not only tells you the meaning of words, it gives you the etymology, that's the origin of the word, and then it has illustrations in most cases. They're like encyclopedia. It's called the World Book Dictionary. So I had two volumes, A to L, M to Z. And when I began to, like I said, I was playing Scrabble. So when I was learning words, so that I could, of course, be able to hold my own against the laws that I was playing with, I found very quickly that the word religion comes from a Latin root, and it is a word called religare. And when you dig further, the word means to bind, to tie. So I dug further. And it's easy to dig where you have that kind of resource. It wasn't before the age of the internet. I had this big dictionary. So right there you find the illustration, and the illustration had a finch, a pretty small bird, rather flighty, maybe even like a hummingbird actually, very tiny flighty bird. And it had its wings tied with twine in a bow, so it couldn't fly. Remember that I came across this dictionary when I was about 14 or 15 years old. That left a deep impression in my mind, the bird with his wings tied. That was a perversion of its purpose. So it was always a tortuous imagery for me to call up. Every time I called up the imagery, I saw limited possibilities, limited opportunities, limited capacities, limitations. That was what I was seeing. And I just couldn't square it. And then you had me, a rebellious teenager, always looking sideways at the pastors in the Kerubu and Seraphim church where I was brought up. And I just didn't have much care for religion. So I stuck with church, but the thought of the limitations stayed with me. So as I grew older, I began to ponder this, and then I began to understand. The imagination of man is the seat of his creativity. What religion actually binds is man's capacity to think outside regulated pathways. Religion are pathways to thinking. It could be pathways to spirituality, but ultimately, they are pathways to thinking. They are meant to control the way what you find acceptable, what you believe right. That's what religion is meant to do. Constrain your mind so that you think along accepted pathways. Now, when you begin to look at the second word, the second Latin word derived from which religion was derived, is also called religio, and it means an obligation. It also means to bind. So it becomes very clear what the purpose of religion is. So I ask myself, if I am living in a country such as Nigeria, designated as the second most prayerful country in the world behind Afghanistan. Afghanistan is essentially the model for a failed state. And that is in spite of the fact that it has only one dominant religion. Nigeria is the second most prayerful state in the world. I'm a Nigerian. I look all around me. And what I see does not suggest that the religion has any room for truth. So I ask myself, what do we have? Religiosities. What are religiosities? Generally outward manifestations of religious protestations and religious affirmation. So I wear a cross, but my life does not reflect the path of the cross. I carry my tesbih. It's almost as long as from here to Mecca, but my deeds are completely evil. The truth does not issue from my mouth, but I am constantly protesting God. I do business with my brothers and my sisters, and my measures are not just, but I protect the name of God at every turn. Baba Ogunlano, it was, I believe we were talking almost 2 weeks ago now, and I think I shared this last week as well, but it's left some thoughts on my mind. Obasanjo it was who first gave the concession for the reconstruction of Lagos-Ibadan Expressway to Babalaki. Somebody was challenging the veracity of my statement that it's taking 20 years to build it. Okay, so let me lob off 4 years for you lot. It's taking 16 years. I'm sure you would all feel much more comfortable now because at least it began since Yar'Adua's time, if nothing else. So it took that 8 years, the 8 years of the daughter that just left. What do you have? 16. It's taken 16 years to reconstruct an existing road. In that time, men have built cities. Men of God have built cities on that road. They have held men accountable in building what God has given them the vision to build. But they have continually demanded that we pray for those who are ruining the country and have been incapable of building, rebuilding, resurfacing an existing road for 16 years. Where is the truth of God? Exactly what is the place of religion in Nigeria? What is the role of religion in Nigeria? What is its purpose? I think it is in the Bible that Christ said very clearly, by their fruits you shall know them. With all the churches and the mosques in every corner of this country today, how has it become that evil has become so pervasive? Why isn't the truth convenient to speak like the clergy? I know there are tokens, some are, but what has happened to us? How did we get so that almost all the principal offices in our country are occupied by less desirable elements in the society? Why is it the clergy that constantly works to explain these evils? Why? Why is it heavy to proclaim evil as evil? Why? To speak the truth has become an offense. To be deprecated even by men of God. How? How? What are they saying in the houses of God that has allowed evil to become so normal? I noticed that some brilliant monkey or monkeys have spent time, invested their time in trying to brand me a madman. I welcome it. If you are not mad in the midst of this insanity, then if you are normal in the midst of this, you are not normal. What is going on with us? The purpose of religion is to get you to accept that there is a better place when you're done with your lives here. It is not meant to get you to abandon living here and live here as beings without the capacity for rational thought and positive actions. The capacity to do the things required to make our country what we need it to be have already been deposited in us. They are not found in fasting and praying. You fasted and prayed enough. You've tithed and given enough offers. It is time to rise up. If the Redeemed Church can build that beautiful place called Redeemed City, Redeemed Camp, if the MFM, and I praise all of them, Canaan Land, the wonderful things that have been done, within the faith community, if it can be done within the faith community, why is it so difficult to demand the same of those who rule us? If you will not employ a fraudster, if you will not employ a forger, if you will not employ a thief to run a branch of the church, can you, for the sake of God, speak out and stop talking about Saul will come before David? That's nonsense. And that's not a jibe at just him. It's a whole lot. It's just, look, is it not time that we demanded the same level of excellence with which we run the houses of God from those who will lead the country? Remember, religiosity does not build countries. North Korea did not build a nuclear weapon by praying. It was by application of their God-given brain, no matter how perverse you might think it's being used. The reality on the ground is that they moved things, they achieved purpose because they have changed their minds. Of what use really, at the end of the day, are your religious protestations when you would have failed to build a country to pass on to the next generation? Yes, you might build churches to pass on to the next generation, but those churches must exist within a country that is still functioning. For how long do you really believe? And I'm speaking to the church because I am a Christian. If you're a Muslim, speak to the Muslims. Speak to your clerics. These protestations of religiosity that has not landed us in any good place and delivered nothing to us makes no sense. Practice what you preach. Don't be monafics. The Quran is clear. Declare the truth of God. Why do you preach peace to the oppressed? Ask them to pray for their oppressors. Explain evil. Make it almost a sin to speak the truth in your space. How do you profit from the affliction of those who are meant to be your flocks? Whether that is you, an imam, or you, a pastor. How? So, the purpose of religion in Nigeria, as things stand today, is to render the people supine, make them amenable and available for exploitation, normalize evil. That is what the religiosities have achieved. That is all it has achieved. Before they think they will pray, whether it's in the cabinet, whether they will pray, at least pretend to, even when all of them know that they are lying to each other. But that's government. What about the private spaces? If the ones who troop to churches and mosques would just do what the scriptures they subscribe to have said, and just be just in your dealing with your neighbor, just be just. Stop the protestations and just do. Then you can hold those who rule to a higher standard, and the protestations might then come to mean something. But with all the protestations, look around you. Are we anything close to what we protest? As a people, as a collective, it's easy to focus on the pastors, but it's about us. Nigeria, Nigerians, and religiosities. Because of our protestations of religion, because of the way we've conditioned our minds, people come to us bearing names that affirms their protestations, and we don't look to their fruits to determine whether they are truly who they say they are. So if the person says he's a Christian, automatically that's the person you must vote for. Or your biases and prejudices are automatically activated against him. Or the person says he's a Muslim, and of course you embrace him. is your brother, a fellow Muslim, even when he might never even ever pray or have any understanding of who the Almighty God is, yet he's your brother. He might condone all the evil in the world. He might even deploy evil in pursuit of what he declares to you to be the purpose of God. It's fine. He has said he's doing it in the name of Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's all you need. You jump on it. Every evil is justified in the name of God because of your religion. Let me show you this. Muhammadu Buhari was acceptable to a whole lot of people simply because of his name, his protestations of Islam. It was the entire basis. The people of Kankara, and I love using Kankara as a metaphor, especially in this season of the Ronu Brigade. The people of Kankara are in Katsina. They are Fulanis. They were part of some of the other communities by Fulani banditry. All through the years of Buhari, they were under siege. I don't know what their situation is now, or if that time has become a... The fact that Buhari was the president made no difference to their fate. The people in Zamfara, probably evenly spread between the Hausas and the Fulanis, it's essentially a war-torn place. The fact that Buhari was there for 8 years made no difference. The insecurity that has turned the Northwest to bits deepened and took root during the Buhari years. Almost everybody of consequence in this country that were appointed into office by Buhari were Fulanis or largely northern Muslims. You're seeing the same error being replicated right now under the president-elect, Madam President. What do you see? Almost every office in the South, almost every office has been handed to the Yorubas. It is all an attempt to shore up the thinking that it is we are the ones, so that you build an hegemony on the back of the weaponization of ethnicity. I was listening the other day, and I was reading rather, and I saw a piece where the clown at Murik was supposed to be complaining that all the appointments have gone to Yoruba Christians. Well, they were the ones campaigning with religion. The Ebora that they have installed in that rock cares nothing for God or any religion. He works with those he knows. It just so happens that the people he knows and largely trusts are the ones that were brought in by his consigliere, his erstwhile consigliere, Baba Gbowore, redeemed pastors. Too bad. It's not about religion for the bat. It's essentially about a family. And that family is simply godless. The God it serves is the God of their bellies and throats, and they serve their godfather. They don't care. When some pastor will go before the tribunal and say you can't affirm or swear by the Bible. So that tells you very quickly what you're dealing with. That same pastor will climb the pulpit and he'll be preaching. So let's be clear that all these religiosities only strengthen the chains of our afflictions. It makes us that much easier for those who are ruining our country to control. So we are the ones who have gleefully handed over the chains of our enslavement every time that we have clung to these religious asininities. Look, if those who rule Nigeria as attached to religion as you are, do you think their children across the religious divides would marry as they have been doing? They don't care. It means nothing to them. It means absolutely nothing to them. And that's the truth. Religion is merely a tool by which you are controlled. That is not to knock religion. What do I know? I hold nothing against those of you who have your religions. I'm holding on to mine because it's probably the only way that I can still maintain my sanity. Because if I do not accept the pathways that Christianity offers for my mind, if I have to allow my mind to become completely unhinged from the regulated pathways of religion, I'm not too sure I wouldn't be deemed completely stark raving mad by this society. So hold on to your religion by all means, but please allow your religions to become pathways to spirituality, not gateways to idiocy, because that is what it has become in Nigeria. Before the white man came, we were not religious people. We were spiritual people. That's another subject, perhaps for another day. But I did spend time, considerable time, writing an entire section in my second book, The Imperatives of the Nigerian Revolution, where I outlined the role of religion in militating against the Nigerian Revolution. I would close today's discussion by attempting to just offer a brief summation of the argument there, and I urge you, please find the time, download the book. It's still there for free. deliverultimate.com. Download it. It's free. There is an entire section on the role of religion, and this is what I need to pass on to you before I leave. What religion has done is that it has been used primarily by the rulers of Nigeria to explain the failures of the Nigerian state and their own personal failures to rise above their base instincts to simply steal everything in sight. So what has happened is that every time the state has come close to being confronted by the people, it has been the role of the religious orders to explain the evil. They benefit by the patronage they get from government. Maybe one day, if you ever see what they do with the security votes in your states, you might begin to understand the role of religion in the putrefaction of Nigeria. But it is up to the victims to rise above the allure of religion, because it is said to be the opium of the mass. Opium, I am sure, was a very expensive item in the days of Karl Marx. And the poor would not be able to afford that drug, but they could surely afford the opium of religion, which allows man to channel his creative energy in the direction that has been accepted and laid out by the religion that he has embraced. And this is why you'd find that the most ardently religious are the poorest in our society. That is the design of religion. The Nigerian religious establishment is not designed to tell you the truth. It is designed for political opportunities, both to the clergy and for the political class. Time will not allow me to deal in depth, and I actually do not even feel I should. Download the book. Go read the section on religion. He explains it, he sets it out. But your religiosities are peculiarly your own. You are the one who needs to free your mind. Allow religion to be a pathway to your spirituality. Do not allow it to be the tool for the capture of your mind. The greatest weapon in the hands of the oppressor, according to a man much wiser than me, is the mind of the oppressed. If you allow your mind to be captured to the point where you are busy offering supplications on behalf of those who are sodomizing you without the aid of lubricants, that's on you. It is not on those who are telling you the lies that you have embraced. So, it is up to you to free yourself. Your mind is yours. The Spirit of God is in you. You know what is right and what is wrong. Let your religion be pathways to your freedom. Have you a blessed week ahead? I believe that we need not spend too much time belaboring this. Practice what you preach, and you would have done your religion proud. But protest one thing and do the exact opposite. Those are religious protestations and outward signs of religiosity. It profits nothing. If our country was anywhere near as religious as it pretends to be, and if it were to practice what it preaches, if we all practice what we preach, it would be a much better place. Enjoy the rest of your week. And yes, happy new week. And greet Madam President for me.